Oh yeah,
All
are
right.
we actually on YouTube live?
No,
Okay.
we are not live on YouTube.
And that is the cold open.
The video is live.
So,
Thank you guys so much.
okay.
Hey, let me do this. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Moorpark Sportscast. My name is Danny Stepanovich. Welcome to the show. I'm here with Kennedy Collier and Mitchell Ross, staff writers over at the moorparkreporter.com. We're here live on YouTube. We got a lot of NFL to get into, and we're going to start with pretty much the game of the week, even though it wasn't a primetime game. Ravens-Steelers from earlier this morning. Oh, forgot to mention we're coming at you, what's today's date? November 1st. Let's start with Ravens-Steelers, like I said. Last week, Mitchell made a bold statement. He came out saying the Steelers are the team to beat in the AFC, and today's game, I guess, was proof of that. Mitchell, was the game this morning, was that more of the Steelers showing their dominance, or was that Lamar Jackson, he can't win the big games? What do you see?
Well, Danny, I think it's a little bit of both, and I don't think anybody in the NFL thinks that Lamar Jackson can't win games. I mean, he took the Ravens to a pretty good record last season and won the MVP. I think more than anything, this is just Pittsburgh again showing their ability to be resilient and to come back from the turnovers. They had two big turnovers today. They still won the game. I'll say it again. I really think Pittsburgh's the team to beat in the NFL. I think Big Ben's going to give it one last ride and see what the Steelers can do this season. They definitely handed it to Baltimore. It was a close game. They're clearly the best team in their division, if not the best team in the NFL. They won't play Kansas City at all in the regular season, which is a little disappointing. But 6 of their next games are all against teams that have very poor records. So I expect them to have a good chance of going undefeated.
Well, I will always argue that you never want to go undefeated as an NFL team because it's never really worked out going undefeated for an NFL team. Mitchell's absolutely right. The Steelers have pretty much a cakewalk the rest of the season. Are they the best team in football? I think it's either them or the Chiefs, especially if you just want to talk about the AFC. This morning was really about the two different philosophies of quarterback that we're seeing in the NFL right now. The pocket passer who isn't really mobile, and Ben Roethlisberger. Then you have Lamar Jackson, who's the new quarterback. Yeah, different styles. It was interesting.
So, Kennedy, do you think this puts them like at a level above the Ravens, or you think it's still a mix in between who can win the division?
I'm not quite sold yet on Lamar Jackson. I think he's a good quarterback. I think maybe 2/3 of the teams in NFL would be better having Lamar Jackson on their team. But right now, it's the Steelers. The Steelers are, in my opinion, they're the second best team in the AFC and in all of the NFL, with first being Kansas City. I just don't see anyone beating Kansas City. I think it's going to be a fun AFC championship of the Steelers and Kansas City. But, yeah, it's their title to lose, honestly.
Lamar Jackson, the 2020 version of Michael Vick, all flash, no substance. I think the league figured him out. He was an anomaly his first 2 seasons. But, look, Baltimore's a good team. I still think the Steelers are going to win their division. And, yeah, Kennedy, like you said, they're neck and neck with the Chiefs. I think it'll be a great matchup if they do play each other in the playoffs. Yeah, that's what I have to say about
We're losing our chemistry, and I blame myself for this disaster that's happening on this podcast.
Little
I'm
bit.
blaming me.
Let me hop in here real quick. I mean, I think you guys are a little too harsh on Lamar Jackson. I mean, he had a rough day, 2 interceptions, 3 fumbles. I don't think that's going to be every single game out of him. I mean, they only lost by 4 points. He got them really close. I blame a couple penalties on their defense. I think the Ravens, I think they still got a shot at this division for sure.
But Danny, if you're the reigning MVP, you can't be throwing 2 interceptions and having 3 fumbles in a game. It's just, that's not how. It's just the NFL MVP needs to be the entire season. It can't just be a regular season award because is winless in the postseason. It's just, I think the ship has sailed on Lamar Jackson. The fact that he's still better than 2/3 of the quarterbacks in the league is more of an indictment on the league than it is on Lamar Jackson. But yeah, it's just, I don't see it really working out with Lamar Jackson.
I mean, like you said, he's the MVP of he was the MVP of the NFL. This wasn't like a 4-game stretch last year. This was 16 games where he dominated the league. I mean, he had a rough game today. He had a rough game against the Titans last year in the playoff game. That was off like 3 weeks rest. They stuck to their game plan today. They ran the ball. I'm not too worried about it.
I don't know. I think for me in the NFL, yeah, the quarterback is the general, but he can't throw the ball and run the ball. I think you have success when you stick to one or the other. I think Baltimore is too reliant on the fact that Jackson can run the ball. He's clearly not the best thrower in the league. I think if they want to improve and start winning some playoff games, they need to get some consistency out of their running game from anybody not named Lamar Jackson and just let him take over the whole team and control what's going on. But give the running to someone else. Let him just throw the ball.
I mean, this was the first game we saw J.K. Dobbins really break out. I think they gave him 16 carries. They gave Gus Edwards, another solid running back. He got another 15. So I think they're figuring it out. I think, Lamar's opening it up. But, I mean, we'll see what they just signed Dez last week. We'll see what he does to the team. I mean, they needed more receivers. He needs more help. They have Mark Andrews, who he likes to rely on. And Hollywood Brown's a streaky receiver. So we'll see if Dez has anything left in the tank. What do you guys think about that signing last week? You think that's going to help him out?
Well, yeah, he was signed to the practice squad, I believe. And I think that's just because Dez has just been out of the game for a little bit. He just needs time to warm up. You don't sign Dez Bryant to just put him on the practice squad. So eventually he is going to see playing time. I do want to bring up Mitchell's point about how a scrambling quarterback, you need to either pick the throwing or the running. It's, generally been true. It's because, one, we don't see a lot of the scrambling QB. I think the last scrambling QB to even make it to the Super Bowl was Colin Kaepernick. So it is doable. It's just that you don't have coaches who know how to implement that game plan, and you just don't have a lot of people at that position who have those skills.
You mentioned Colin Kaepernick being the last scrambling QB to get to the Super Bowl. His opponent that Super Bowl was Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco, definitely not the most.
Oh, I almost thought you were going to call Joe Flacco a scrambling quarterback. I was about to run over to your house and smack you.
But what Flacco did have that Kaepernick did not was just an absolute bazooka of an arm and the ability to stay in there and throw it anywhere on the field with precision. So I would offer this argument.
Let's chill on Flacco a little bit. What do you think about this, Kennedy? Come on. Is he going a little too much with Flacco? I think that was all that defense.
I mean, as a person who has personally had Joe Flacco on his roster of a team that he loves ever since he was a boy, his boyhood team, signed Joe Flacco, my heart wept. Yeah, he has had a cannon for an arm, but have you seen the biceps of Colin Kaepernick when he was playing football? They are the size, they're like Dominique's. They were the size of a watermelon. So don't tell me that Colin Kaepernick didn't have a cannon. But yeah, no, that was all Baltimore defense. You have Ray Lewis. You're gonna be a menace on the field.
All right, talking about mobile quarterbacks, I'm not sure if Tua counts. Can he still run after all those injuries? I don't know. But we saw Rams Dolphins earlier this morning, Tua's first start. And his first start started with a fumble, Aaron Donald fumble. And from there, the Dolphins just took off. Or maybe the defense took off and the Rams just couldn't do anything. What did you guys see out of Tua's first start? Kennedy, go ahead.
If you're going to start, let's pretend you're a rookie QB for a second, and you're going to go into your first game against the team that has Aaron Donald, the man out of all of NFL who looks like he can take a full-grown person and rip them in half, Mortal Kombat style. I think it's a great day for your defense to absolutely step up so you really don't have to be on the field that often. Was I impressed by Tua? No, he threw an average of 4.2 yards, where the New York Jets, the lowest average yards per throw is at 4.7. So he threw less yards than the stinky, 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 stinky garbage Jets. So it was a very unimpressive, debut. Thank God his defense showed up, because also, are we ready to toss the book out on Jared Goff? Is he done? Are we done with Jared Goff? Is he done being the savior of LA? Because he stinks too. Get him out of here. He's awful.
Yeah, Tua's debut, I think, was less about Tua and more of just Jared Goff's inability to stay consistent. I feel like every time he gets on a roll of 3, 4, maybe even 5 games, they flash up those stats on the TV, and then he just drops an absolute stinker of a game. Today's game, Miami D prevailed. I think it was less about Tua and more about the Rams just not really being able to figure it out in South Beach. I still think the Rams are a better team than Miami, and Miami should give every team in their division trouble, especially the New England Patriots, who look absolutely god-awful. Kennedy, I agree with you. It might be time to throw out the book on Jared Goff. He might be done, but the Rams owe him so much money that they cannot afford not to start him.
And this is another thing that you have to think about. Just look at it from the perspective of a Dolphins fan. Every time you get a new quarterback, or with any team, every time you get a new quarterback, each game he plays, you ask the question, is he the one? Is he the one who's going to fix our team and make our team better? They did that for like 7 or 8 years with Ryan Tannehill. And for that entire time that Ryan Tannehill was there, whole town of Miami was going, is he the one? And now you're looking at Tua, and you're still asking after one game, is he the one? And maybe that's unfair after one game, but it was such a lackluster game one. He didn't really show anything that impressed me. So, I don't know. It's tough, man. I would hate to be a Dolphins fan.
I mean, he had a good touchdown pass to Devontae Parker. I don't know if you saw that. He threaded the needle there. But, yeah, like you said, Goff just – I don't know what's going on with Goff. I get it was an East Coast game. I saw some stat where he just doesn't perform well on the East Coast. I don't know if that's a valid excuse. He's an LA kid. Do you guys think that's a valid excuse for him? Or are
you blaming Miami nightclubs on Jared Goff's demise in Miami? Because there is COVID, and while Florida may be a cesspool of the United States, I don't see Jared Goff going to the club and sniffing the Colombian Bam Bam at club whatever. I just don't see it. I just think he's a stinky quarterback.
Yeah, let's not blame Miami nightclubs for Jared Goff's.
But it is possible.
To just be – I think the problem with him is that people thought he was going to be the savior of the Rams. They take him number 1 overall. They move him into this nice, big, huge stadium. They had a nice run to the Super Bowl. Look, you can't blame location for losing a game. If you – like Tom Brady had to play in the NFC East in the winter or AFC East in the winter. It gets cold there. He has to go to places like New England, Buffalo, New York in November and December, and it's cold, and it's definitely harder to play football when it's cold. Jared Goff's playing in South Beach, Miami, one of the best climates in the country, despite it being a cesspool of COVID. No excuse for the East Coast failures of Jared Goff.
And also the using of an excuse of being sleepy from flying from West Coast to East Coast as the excuse of a fat man. And as a fat man, I've used that excuse several times. And an athlete like Jared Goff should know better.
We also got back an hour of sleep, so even more reason for it not being an excuse.
I was so happy. I forgot that today was daylight savings. I was relieved when I woke up and it was an hour later.
Surprise.
Yeah.
But also remember that Brian Flores, he was the one that really figured out this Rams offense in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. He was the defensive coordinator back then. And he was coming off a bye, so I honestly wasn't expecting too much out of Jared Goff this game. We'll see next week. He plays Seattle. They don't have that good of a defense, but obviously they got Russell Wilson. So I feel like I'm gonna hold off. I'll give him one more week. But But yeah, like the Dolphins defense saved Tua pretty much. We'll see what he got next week. But Mitchell, you mentioned the Patriots. What is going on in New England?
I think it's the public being able to see who really was the breadwinner in New England. I mean, you have to give props to Belichick for just being the strategist that he is, and really running a tight ship in New England. There's what they call the Patriot way. And with so many years of success and dominance in the NFL, it's shocking to see that they're 2-5. They're 2-5 this season. I can't remember a time where the Patriots had a losing record. Even in the one season that Tom Brady was injured and out for most of the season, they still finished with more wins than losses. I thought Cam Newton was going to be a good option for maybe Belichick revitalizing his career. So far, it has not worked. Cam doesn't look good. Good thing they didn't spend too much money on him. At this point, I don't expect too much out of New England, and I think it'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward. How long does Belichick stay? Does he want to rebuild, or does he just want to move on and walk into the sunset?
I mean, you guys tend to be pretty down on the Houston Astros, but when the Patriots, do stuff, it's plan making.
Oh no! I'm with you, Dominic. We're gonna get those bastards in a minute. So it's the funniest comedy that I've ever seen in sports is the downfall of the New England Patriots this season. My childhood has been defined by playoff hopeful games, must-win games, where the Patriots were always playing in Foxborough and it's cold as hell and and we lose by 2 touchdowns. That's been my childhood as a football fan to this New England team. For 20 some years, they've just been dominant. And the question has always been, is it Belichick? Is it Brady? I've always been of the opinion that it's both. And I still think that it is both because, one, Tom Brady, as much as I hate him, as much as I believe that he legitimately sold his soul to the devil so he could be the greatest quarterback to ever throw a football, while I believe he bathes in the blood of, innocent children, stuff like that, he's still the greatest quarterback ever. He has 6 rings. He has more rings than the Steelers have. I just don't like Cam Newton is not the same quarterback. He's too injured. And you have all these wide receivers who are a bunch of 5'10" white guys running around. If you have an injured quarterback and that is your weapons, who's winning the game? So you kind of need Tom Brady to be the best quarterback, but you also need Bill Belichick to have the more strategic mind to get those 5'10" white guys in the open area. So it's interesting, man. Tampa Bay's going up and the Patriots are going down.
You mentioned the receivers, Kennedy. Let me just tell you their 3 leading receivers from this game. Jacoby Myers, undrafted. Damier Bird, undrafted. Isaiah Zuber, undrafted. I mean, it's just, I don't know what Cam Newton's working with. I don't know what's going on in New England either. I saw this stat on Twitter. Belichick with Tom Brady, he's 224 and 66. And without, if you remember, he was the Browns head coach. He's 51 and 66. So it's interesting to see that. Mitchell, you said it was a little bit of both also, right?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the two really complemented each other with Brady's work ethic and Belichick's just commitment to the game. A great football dynasty is not coming down to one singular person. It is a group of people that create a culture within a program that fosters excellence. And like with baking, if you take out one of the ingredients, your cake's going to fall flat. I thought Cam could have been a bridge to the next QB that the Patriots bring in. He very well may still be. It's looking bad because Tom's doing really well in Tampa. But New England's never really been known to go out there to get the big name weapons. They got Randy Moss for a couple of seasons, and even then it still didn't bring them to a Super Bowl victory. It's
You
really
think that
tough to win in the
kind
NFL.
of helps the Brady argument that New England was never able to get receivers, and look what he did without all these guys?
To Kennedy's point, short 5'10" white guys, Wes Welker, and Julian Edelman. Brady has made them household names and given hopes to every short white dude that ever wanted to play in the NFL ever. But I have to lean more towards Brady. He was the one that stirred the pot. He was the one that made the sauce. He made it happen.
You also have to keep in mind that Cam Newton is 31, and the style of quarterbacking that he would do, he did a lot of running back responsibilities, and he would get hit a lot like a running back. And at 31, playing a whole season, basically getting hit like a running back, that does a lot to your body. So you're not going to be the same quarterback you were, when he made that Super Bowl run. But yeah, no, it's just, I don't think we should blame Cam Newton 100% because it's just a look at what he has to work with. Like, you literally have to be Tom Brady to work with what you're given.
Now, let me tell you something that sounds really scary. You guys might get frightened. Trevor Lawrence to New England. What's going to happen there? What if that happens?
It'll never happen for a couple of reasons. One, the Patriots organization has too much pride to tank. Bill Belichick's not going to let that happen. He's too savvy of a head coach to not take advantage late in the game and win when, if they were tanking, they would just try and lose. Two, I hear Trevor Lawrence is undecided if he'll stay or not after this season at Clemson. I think he will stay for another season, and here's why. There's no absolute zero legitimacy to this college football season. Some conferences are not even playing a full schedule. The college football playoff is rigged as it is, and I think he wants a chance to have a full regular season to show what he's worth. He's also not going to be able to start against Notre Dame, probably one of the premier matchups of this entire season. I think Trevor Lawrence stays back another year. You're not going to see New England try and tank 2 years in a row.
Trevor Lawrence is in an interesting position where no matter what he does, I think it'll work out for him because he's basically a made man at Clemson. He could do whatever he wants, sign any, used car dealership ad that he wants. He could plaster his face all over Clemson and just make money for the rest of his life. He has so many connections there that going back and getting his degree and, like I said, he's made. But going to the Jets, they just don't know how to run a football team there. And I feel like Sam Darnold had a good college career. Obviously, it wasn't Trevor Lawrence-esque, but he had a good college career. And now he just looks like a bum in New York. So I feel like that's just where good quarterbacks go to die. And then Mark Sanchez gets 2 good seasons and then butt fumbles. So just bite the bullet, do the 4th year. You're going to win regardless.
And he won't even be on the field the whole time. So I would say if someone would argue, well, what about the risk of injury? He only plays the first half. He barely gets touched. He'll be fine, injury-wise.
I want to ask you, Kennedy, though, do you think the Patriots could be tanking for Lawrence? You see this happening?
I don't see it in Belichick to tank. I think eventually they're going to have to accept tanking, but I think you're too far into the season. Tanking is a week 1 decision, honestly. If you want to do successful, I think the only thing the New York Jets know how to do is to be dysfunctional and to tank, and they figured out if you do it at the beginning, you're going to have the best odds. And look at they have the best odds to get the first round pick. So yeah, tanking's not a week 8 decision. Tanking's a week 1. So this season, no, I think they're going to get some crappy middle round or middle pick that doesn't turn into anything like it always does. And yeah, it's going to be a boring year in New England, and I couldn't be happier.
I got to say, I'm surprised both of you guys don't think the Patriots are going to tank. I think this is full tank mode. Like,
Belichick just refuses to lose. That man, I don't care. His pride would not allow him to lose.
He's too smart, though. He knows he's 2-5, I think now, 2-6. There's no point to win games anymore. I think
I think he believed he was the key to the success, the same way Brady believes he's the key to the success, and that if he can get a good quarterback, which Cam Newton, with all due respects, is a good quarterback, that he could just make at least a deep playoff run. And I think that's what Boston fans were expecting, a deep playoff run, if not a Super Bowl. So yeah, no, like he's too far in. He's past the point of no return. He's got to – I don't even know what you do in this point. That's just the weird thing about middle picks. They're useless.
I wouldn't say they're useless. Knowing Belichick and knowing the Patriots, they'll find a way to squeeze every bit of talent out of any pick that they get. But Kennedy, yeah, I agree. And Danny, look, it's like if the Patriots were to tank, it'd be like Ferrari saying we're going to put a V6 engine in a car. Like, it just doesn't happen. Ferrari doesn't make subpar vehicles. The Patriots don't tank. It's oil and water. It doesn't mix.
I would see Belichick retiring before he tanks.
Really?
Yeah.
There's no way. You're too good of a coach. You're too smart. I think Belichick has too much.
Exactly. He's too smart to not tank. That's my point.
Tank.
Danny, how much has he paid you? How much does Belichick pay you to say these blessings of him?
I feel like he's gonna tank. All right. Anything else on the Patriots, guys?
They stink.
Yeah, I'm Sam. I'm here with you.
They're still cheaters.
Oh yeah, that's without a doubt.
100%.
Patriots or Ben DiNucci and the Cowboys?
Anytime I get to pick against the Patriots, I'm going to choose the Patriots. So I hate them.
Ben DiNucci.
I don't know. As a Giants fan, I hate both equally. Down with them all.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Moorpark Sportscast. Once again, my name is Danny Stepanovich over at the moorparkreporter.com. You can find me on Twitter at dstepanovich. What about you, Mitchell?
At Mitch Ross Report, everywhere the social media is accepted.
And I'm Kennedy Collier, and twice in a row on DoorDash, they delivered the wrong food to me, so I'm steamed.
We do not support DoorDash. They're not sponsored.
Not a sponsor.
No, not the way they've been treating me. Hell no.
Once again, thank you to our editor, Dom.
Thanks, Dom.
Once again, thank you. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.